Hi, I am Rylan, and this is my weekly preview of the last week of the NFL preseason, week 4 of the preseason. So, the preseason has been, up and down. Not many starters have played like Lamar Jackson, but there's been a bunch of starters like Mahomes and Josh Allen and C.J. Stroud and all the big names, Purdy. But this week, I want to talk about the last week because this is the last week before the season starts. So, I may be a little late, but I'll talk about the Colts and Bengals game. This game was pretty entertaining, and it was a score of 27-14. These games were last night. The Colts won with a pretty by about 2 scores, but Anthony Richardson played okay. I watched some of his drives. He played okay. He had a good first drive, but then he threw a bad pick six, which I think is a negative about him. And then they benched him not too long after. And the Bengals, they just look okay. Now for the next game was Bears-Chiefs. The Bears stomped the Chiefs, even though the score doesn't say it, at 34-21. The score was pretty close to around 34 to around 14. But the Bears look pretty good. Caleb Williams did not play in this game, but their backups have been playing very well. The Bears this preseason have been playing out of their minds, scoring 34 points this week. Last week scoring 27. And the week before that, they scored 33. And they played in the first week. So they are 3-0. They're done with the preseason. For the next couple games I'll talk to you about, the Jags and Falcons, I think that game's going to be, a toss-up. Who knows? Probably the Falcons because of the new pieces. I doubt any starters will play, especially Matthew Judon just getting traded over. Same thing with Justin Simmons. I don't think he's going to play, and I doubt Kirk Cousins will play. But I hope Bijan will play, so look out for him for fantasy. The next game with the Dolphins-Bucks, I think the Dolphins will win. They'll play Tua. I doubt Hill will play, but Waddle will play, and some other starters will play. That game is today at 7:30, but I think the Dolphins will easily win. The Bucs defense has been playing bad, so it's going to be interesting, in about a week, in about 2 weeks, a little off, that they're going to be playing in the actual regular season game. But to move on, we're going to the 49ers and the Raiders. The 49ers in the preseason, again, none of these preseason games matter too much. But it is nice to see that the backups that will elevate the starting roles. And usually with the 49ers, they find all sorts of players in deep rounds. And this is where they find them. And then the last week, we'll see if anyone emerges. Anyways, I think the 49ers will win against the Raiders. But I would like to see Brock Bowers play. He was drafted a lot higher than I thought. I thought he was going to be drafted in the top 8, but he fell very late. I don't remember. But I think the Niners will win, and those teams are going to be interesting. I think the Raiders have announced that Gardner Minshew is the starter, which is kind of funny. He's pretty good, does throw some picks, but he's an interesting player. But I think the Niners will win. And for the next game I'll be talking about is the Vikings-Eagles. I think that game, nothing really much. I think the Eagles will win. But I feel bad for the Vikings because they lost J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy's a huge loss for their team. Now, they got Sam Darnold playing. It's going to be interesting. Justin Jefferson probably will not play at all. But it will be interesting. I doubt Hurts will play. No one really particular will play in that game important. But it's the best roster, the best quarterback that the Vikings will put out in that game might be their week 1 starter, which is sad to think about, but I think the Eagles will win. Next game is the Ravens-Packers. The Packers, in the last preseason game, even though it doesn't mean anything, put up 2 points on a safety. They are playing the Ravens. Hopefully the Ravens will play a good game. We won the last game against the Falcons by a score of 13-12. I think the Ravens will play good. Their backup is okay. Josh Johnson's okay. But some guys, their running back depth is pretty good. Unfortunately, Derrick Henry won't play in that game. I wish he will, but, what can you do about it? But I think the Ravens will win, and I think that game will be pretty interesting. It's at 1 o'clock, so look out. Steelers-Lions. I think Justin Fields is the one elevating above Russell Wilson, but I think that game's going to be interesting, but I doubt any starters for either team will play in that game other than maybe the quarterbacks. I doubt Goff will play or Amon-Ra. Jameer probably will play. Jameer Gibbs will play. David Montgomery will not play. Steelers, it's just such a weird QB battle. I mean, I don't think either one of those quarterbacks are that good. And I think Fields is a diet Lamar Jackson at best. But I think, Russell Wilson is kind of getting washed. He's getting up in age. He's around 35 years old. So the time is ticking. And he is making nothing in the Steel City. But I think the Steelers will win. Only because they're just such a weird team. They play very weird. Their games are very just not interesting. They play a very unenthusiastic brand of football. Hard-nosed running. They won't really kill you by the air. But they will win. I don't know how they win. The defense is always solid. TJ Watt will probably not play. But I think the Steelers will win. Next game is Rams-Texans. I think Stroud will play this game. I doubt Stafford will, so I think the Texans will easily beat the Rams. Again, it's preseason, so it doesn't really matter who plays or not. But I think Tank Dell will play because he needs the rep. I want Diggs to play on that team because I think anyone who gets traded to a new team, within time, if you know what I mean, if they were just traded, they should have played. But he's been on that team for a couple months. I think maybe get a drive or two. Maybe some of the starters, I think they should play at least a half, they haven't played in months. And even though this is the fourth game, they don't always play in the beginning. So I think this is, a week or so before the start of the season. So I think a lot of the starters should play, not only in this game, but just in general in the preseason. But I think the Texans will win. Next game is Panthers-Bills. Allen will probably not play. And even with Allen on the bench, the Panthers will still lose. The Panthers are just such a bad team. I don't know why Bryce Young hasn't been playing in the preseason. It makes no sense whatsoever. He's just not that good, and I think he needs the reps. And that team is just so bad. Clowney going there, who's from the Ravens, he'll probably play. But I think I think there's just some wasted great talent on the Panthers, but in just such sporadic position groups. But I don't know about the Panthers. I think they're just going to be horrible again. But it will be interesting in the season coming up because can they do better than 2 wins last season? We'll see. Next is Chargers-Cowboys. Cowboys will probably start their starters. The Chargers might. I don't really know. I think the Cowboys will win. The Cowboys get a lot of picks. In the last 2 games, they've had 5 picks, and I'm pretty sure they had a pick 6. So, fantasy-wise, even though this isn't about fantasy, Cowboys defense, great. They get lots of picks, and when they play at home, which they are at 4 o'clock, they play very good at home. They score a lot. They don't really lose at home. So, Cowboys at home is pretty money. The next game is Giants. Oh, for that game, I think the Cowboys will win. The Giants-Jets game, who knows? Rodgers won't play, and the Giants, Daniel Jones is just looking like a backup even though he's a starter. So I don't really know who wins. Probably the Jets, but either team, I don't think I'll see anything from that game. The next game is the Browns and Seahawks. I doubt Deshaun Watson will play in that game. I think Geno will play for the Seahawks. Geno's taken a little step back from last season. It's going to be interesting. I think that he should play out of either one of those quarterbacks because he's older, and they're going to be looking for a new quarterback. I think they got Sam Howell, and they can replace him, and he can get a lot of reps. And I think Deshaun should play too, but Deshaun is just, I don't really understand. He plays some good games. He plays some bad games. He's definitely not worth that contract. And it's going to be interesting to see. They got Jerry Jeudy this season, so it's going to be interesting. But I think the Seahawks will win, but I think it might actually be a high-scoring game. But I think the Seahawks will win, but it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say that. It's at 10 p.m. Now, for the next game is the Titans-Saints. Both those teams, I don't know what's going on in Tennessee. I think Will Levis is starting. I think they got rid of Tannehill, so he's a free agent. And Derek Carr, I doubt will play. But it'll be interesting. Both those teams aren't really that good. So I think the Titans, I'm going to give it to the Titans because they got Tyler Boyd in the offseason, Tony Romo, Tony Pollard, and they got, I think, they got Calvin Ridley. Even though I doubt they're playing that game, I think the Titans would be interesting. And in this game, I think the Titans will win. It doesn't really matter per se in that game, but I think the Titans will win. They probably will have their starters in, especially with Pollard, and I think they'll win, and I don't think it would be that close. Next game is Cardinals-Broncos. There's some interesting players that will probably play. Like the Cardinals, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. will play, and I think he'll have a pretty good game. I know they play more than a drive or so, but it'll definitely be interesting. And with the Broncos, I think Bo Nix, he's looking pretty good, and that team's looking good. But I think the Broncos will win. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Broncos are going to win. And the last game of the season is Patriots-Commanders of the preseason. And really, I think the Patriots are just such a shell of themselves. Even with their backups, you could probably put in their starters against the Commanders' backups, and I think they're still pull up, a fight. It should be a blowout, if that would happen, but I doubt it. I think the Patriots are just not good, and I think their defense is really going to show it this year. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But I think I'll give it to the Patriots. Even though I was just, talking bad about them, I think they'll win. They have a good shot. So, that is my weekly preview of the Week 4 of preseason, and it's going to be interesting. There's already been 2 games played, and I can't wait for the season to start. What do you think about my predictions?